Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Let's continue implementing the main section of our application. Now we have to define the layout of our application. Under main, create a new user control. Let's call it layout. Now the layout is going to be very simple. First of all, let's set the background of this container by using dynamic resource and background from material design. Now it consists of two rows. The first row, which is the header of our application and the variable content of our application and the footer. I'm going to add here a to-do header section. It's going to be a normal user control. And we're going to put, using a stock panel, the second row, actually, it's going to be a frame for navigation, main frame. For the minimum height for this particular frame, let's say, for example, 300. And the method is going to be called when navigating, and we have to hide the navigation UI. Underneath, we're going to put our footer. Let's say the height of the footer 100, and let's add some margin. Now we have to implement the header section. Inside Pocket Code, create a new folder. Let's call it component. Inside component, create a new user control. Let's call it header section. We're going to use the header from Core UI, and we have to fill in the blanks. Beforehand, we have to set the height for this header. Let's say, for example, 800. For the vertical alignment should be top. And whenever we click on the logo on code behind, rename this to on logo click. Now we have to put our search input. We're going to hard code the data context, which is the product view model. I'm going to add some margin, horizontal alignment left, and for the vertical alignment, it should be top. For the clear event handler, I'm going to call it on clear. The value is processing from the binding. State is searching. For the query, it's going to be search query. Under product view model, update source trigger to properly changed, and the mode has to be two-way binding. Let's set the required width to 300, and the search event handler, let's call it on search. The search label from the string resource, the event handler suggested product selected. The suggested products from the binding state suggested products. Basically, by doing this, we are literally hard coding the binding. We are no longer interested in state hoisting. In other words, we have to provide the exact correct names of the variables. Now for the last event, which is loaded, let's call it on search text field loaded. Now we have to set the toolbar, and we have to handle toolbar loaded. I'm going to create this event, and let's add some margin, and that's pretty much it for our header section. Now let's implement the code behind. I'm going to call this function on toolbar loaded. Change this. We need the view models, toolbar view model, auth view model, login, register view models, product view model, main view model, and snack bar controller. Now we have to resolve all the view models. As we have done in the home screen, we're going to pretty much make this header section maintainable and readable by adding the individual initialization for login form, register form, and auth view model actions. That's going to basically handle all the needed registration for the handler events and to bind the needed bindings. Let's initialize the login form. Let's check first of all, as shown here, if the view model is null. In this case, we're going to do error return. If the view model is not null, we're going to handle on login error, on logged in, and whenever we have some updates when it comes to validation. Let's start, for example, with on logged in. We're going to close the window. We have to trigger the event from the auth view model, set authenticated user, and in the main view model, we're going to set the user ID to keep track of whether we have authenticated user or not. At the end, we're going to show the snack bar. Now we have to check if the login form view model is null, or the snack bar controller or view model, or auth view model, or main view model are null. In this case, we're going to make an error return. Next, we're going to reset basically the alert content to empty string and to hide the alert under the login form by doing login form on event, new login form. I'm going to name this namespace to login because we're going to have some interference in the namespace. And same for register. I'm going to comment it, otherwise the IDE is going to delete it, and set alert, empty message, and false. Basically, it's going to reset the state of the alert. Next, we're going to close the auth window. Let's implement this function. Let's make this function a public function to be accessible outside the header section. In order to access the toolbar, we have to create an instance here of type toolbar. We're gonna make it public in order to be accessible from outside the header section. Make sure to choose this one. We need only the getter. Now inside the onToolbar loaded, let's initialize the toolbar using the sender as toolbar. And we have to initialize basically the bindings for the toolbar. I'm gonna create the function. Let's name it initialize toolbar bindings, implement it later on. Let's come back to the close window. We have to check if the toolbar is null. We're gonna do an early return. Then we can access the method that we have implemented earlier, close auth access dialog, by doing toolbar and close auth access dialog. Now we have stopped here under on logged in. After resetting the alert content and make it invisible, we have to close the auth window and we have to trigger the event set authenticated user from the auth view model on event new set authenticated user. All right. Afterward, we have to trigger the event on set user ID under main view model by doing user and ID. And we have to show a snack bar message telling the user welcome and username by doing snack bar controller. Try show the snack bar severity is success. We're going to use the string resource text logged in to replace the placeholder with the username by doing string and format string resource text logged in, and we have to pass here as a second argument the username, which is very good. And that's pretty much it for on logged in. Now let's implement on login error, which is very simple. If the view model login form view model is null or the exception is null, gonna make here an early return. Why I do this? Because I don't want to do the null safety operator. Next, we have to trigger the event set alert to show the alert message under the login form. Let's use the exception message and visible true. That's pretty much it. Let's fold this function. Now we have to handle the feedback messages under the validation errors by checking the property names under the view model. First of all, we have to check if the view model login form and the toolbar is not null. Next, we have to use the dispatcher, main dispatcher for the UI to assign the validation messages. Now we have to switch on the property name. Now, in case of the login email error message, we can set the login email error message from login form get validation error message. And again, name of this field. And you have to do break. With the same manner, we're going to provide the error messages for the password. Now that's all for the update login form error messages. We have implemented 3 when it comes to initialize login form actions. Let's do the same thing for the register form actions. After initializing the component, we're going to call initialize login form actions. With the same manner, we have to initialize register form actions and we have to initialize the auth view model actions. Gonna copy this. Instead, initialize register form actions and initialize auth view model actions. Create those. Gonna move this to the bottom of the file. Let's start with defining the initialize register form actions. We have to check if the register form view model is null. If it's null, we're gonna do an early return. Next, we're going to register the handlers for onRegister fail, onRegistered, and the validation errors for the register form view model. Now let's create those methods. Let's do, for example, the feedback messages for the errors of the validation and the register form view model. With the same manner, we have to check if the register form view model is null and the toolbar is null, gonna do early return. Otherwise, gonna assign the, in case of, for example, first and last name, the error message under toolbar, it's gonna be get validation error message from register form view model, and so on for the rest of the fields. It's exactly the same. I'm gonna unfold this method. OnRegistered, all we have to do is to trigger the event set alert under register view model. I'm going to uncomment this namespace, rename this actually to message, and we have to check if the view model is null. Let's make an early return. If it's not null, register on event, new set alert. We have to replace basically the text registered by the first and last name of the user, string format, the source, which is string resource, text registered from view model, and first and last name. For the second argument, the visibility should be true. The alert type is going to be success. All right. I'm going to fold this. On register failed. We're going to do the same thing actually. Instead of showing text registered, we're going to show error registration, and the alert type is going to be error. All right, we are done basically with those three actions under the register form. Now for the auth view model actions. With the same manner, if the auth view model is null, we're going to make an early return, and we have to handle on logout error and logout success. Let's create those methods as usual and to the bottom of the file. On logout success, we have to trigger the event on main view model to set the authenticated user ID to null. Main view model on event on set user ID to null. And of course we have to check. Without checking, I guess, I'm going to do here the null safety operator. All right, I'm going to check anyway. Early return. I'm going to show a snack bar message text logged out. On logout error, I'm going to show a snack bar message error logged out. I'm going to copy this, paste it here. Instead, it should be error and error logged out or logout, whatever. All right, I'm going to fold this, because we are doing here an extensive work actually. I'm going to use all the features in one place. We have done a to-do actually, initialize toolbar bindings. Here we go. To initialize the toolbar bindings, we have to check if the toolbar component is not null and the toolbar view model, as well as auth view model, main view model, register form view model, and login form view model are not null. In this case, we're going to make an early return. Now, with the first binding, it's going to be for the target property under the toolbar, which is the dependency property is dark theme property. We're going to bind this to the property under main view model is dark theme. As you have done earlier, target property, target which is toolbar. The target property, it's going to be toolbar is dark theme property. The source, main view model, and the source property name, it's going to be state, and you have to access is dark theme. Try not to do a typo here, otherwise it's not going to work. And for the mode, it's going to be two-way, which is very important. Two-way. In this case, we cannot do something like name of main view model and state and is dark theme. All right, we cannot do this because it's not going to give us the same thing as state and is dark theme. The next property, we need to bind the dependency property under toolbar, which is current form, to the toolbar view model form type. We can do this because there is only one nested property. The other one for the authenticated user under toolbar, and the source, it's going to be auth view model authenticated user. Now for the command, under toolbar, it has to be bound to the main view model switch theme command. We have to bind the dialog title and the register state. For the dialog title, it's going to be from toolbar view model, dialog title, and for the register state, it's going to be from register from view model. Now for the other binding, which is for the login now command, it's going to be tied to toolbar view model login now command. And for the register command property, it's going to be tied to register from view model register command. We are not done yet. We need to bind the dependency property logout command property under toolbar to the auth view model logout command, and full name, email, password, and password confirmation to register form view model. And make sure to specify the two-way binding for full name, email, password, password confirmation to reflect the changes of the validation error feedback messages. And we have to bind again with the same manner for the login form, the register now command to toolbar view model register now command, and the login command to login form view model login command, and login email property and login password property to login form view model email and login form view model password. And the binding mode should be two-way binding. That was an extensive work. This is the drawback actually of the state hoisting. Now under the toolbar, we have to set the property should validate login form true, as well as the should validate register form true. And we have to add event handler for toggle login password visible, toggle login form password visible, and for register form, let's create those methods, move it to the bottom, and we have to add another event handlers for unregistered events, auth access closed, wishlist click, and user menu click. Let's create those methods. All right, to the bottom, we have to implement all of those. Let's start, for example, with on toggle register confirm password visible. I'm gonna check if the register form view model is null. I'm gonna do error return, otherwise we have to trigger the event toggle confirm password visible. It's gonna be the same thing for this function and this function and this function. On user menu click, we have to check if the auth view model is null. I'm gonna do error return, otherwise we have to trigger the event on refresh user data. It's gonna happen when the user is gonna click, for example, on this user menu to refresh basically the data. After, we have to use the auth view model on event new on refresh user data. For the callback function on refresh failed, we have to show the snack bar message error fetching the data. For example, try show snack bar. All right, let's fold this and let's fold this. All the implemented functions has to be folded. Gonna keep this open. Now, whenever we click on the wishlist menu item, we have to navigate to the wishlist manager. Therefore, I'm gonna move this method to the parent component where we have the navigation. I'm gonna add here an event handler. It's not wishlist click, but actually wishlist manager click. All right, let's attach it to this event and let's delete this one. Under the auth access closed, it's gonna be triggered whenever we are closing the window. All right, whenever we close the window, let's reset the text fields under login form as well as register form. We have to check if the login form view model and the register form view model are null. If they are null, we're gonna do here an early return. Now we can reset the text fields under login form as well as register form by triggering the event reset text fields on each event. And that's pretty much it. Let's fold this method. We have on register event. All we have to do here is to trigger the event from the view model register view model. We have to check if the view model is not null. If it's not, going to do an early return. Otherwise, we're going to call the event on register form view model. And let's rename this, for example, register events. And now we are done with the method on toolbar loaded. Now on search text field loaded, what we have to do here, we have to set the data context for the search text field to product view model. And let's keep a reference to this view. Let's store it here under public member. It's going to be of type search input. Let's name it search text field, public getter, and a private setter. Let's assign the search text field from the sender. Now we have to check text field is not null. We're going to set the data context to product view model. All right, let's fold this section. Now for the method on suggested product selected, what we have to do here is very simple. We need to pass the selected product preview, product selected, and invoke this. Instead of preview, let's rename it to something like, I don't know, products preview. All right, let's fold this section on search with the same manner to the main window, clear query, as well as on logo click. All right, let's come back. For on search, let's rename this to query. On clear to clear the query. All right, on logo click. And for the learn more click, and for this one, we're not going to use it. As you can see here, it's not pretty straightforward actually to handle state hoisting when it comes to a lot of dependencies. And that's pretty much it for the implementation of the header section. I'm going to build the project and let's use it under the layout. I just rename this to on search clear. All right, now we have to add the header section. Let's name this namespace local component. Let's use the same name as the component header section. Whenever this component is going to be loaded, let's handle the needed event on header section loaded. And let's implement logo click, search clear, suggested product selected, search click, and wishlist manager click. All right, let's come back to the code behind. Let's keep a reference to the navigation service. As soon as layout is ready, we're going to assign from the mainframe navigation service to navigation service, public field of layout. Let's handle loaded. As I said earlier, I'm going to assign the navigation service from the mainframe and navigation service. Next, I'm going to hoist this method to an event that I'm going to call on layout mounted or layout mounted. Whenever we are navigating, let's animate basically the screen, the next screen and the previous screen. We're going to use the thickness animation in combination with the opacity animation. It's going to be basically as Vue3 application, if you will, or the Kotlin. All right. For the duration, it's going to be 300 milliseconds. Deceleration ratio 0.7 or 0.8, and the ease in function ease in to new thickness 0. All right. So we're going to animate from the normal thickness to this 0 thickness. Now for the opacity, it's going to be a double animation, and the target is going to be 1, which is visible. Now we have to check if the navigation mode is new from the event. Navigation mode equal navigation mode and new. In other words, we are navigating to a new screen. The opacity animation is going to be from 0, and the thickness animation, the from property, it has to be from, let's say, for example, 500 for the left side, 500, and for the rest, just 0. Else, now if we are navigating back, navigation mode back, we're going to keep basically the opacity 0. We're going to do for the right 500. Hopefully, I haven't mixed the directions. Now we have to create the storyboard, and we have to add the children opacity animation and thickness animation. Now we have to cast basically the event to a page content by doing page and content. Then we can start the animation and opacity animation. And with the same manner, I'm going to start the animation for the margin property thickness animation. I think that's pretty much it. We are done with this. Let's try to create the same function that we have done under the header section for the close auth window. We have the reference header section. We can use the header section and close auth window. All right, what's next? Now we have to access under the main window the toolbar. Therefore, we have to create a reference toolbar. Why? Because we need to handle everything within the main window. Whenever the header section has been loaded, what we have to do, we're going to assign the toolbar header section and toolbar. Now for the rest, it's pretty straightforward. Public events to be used and to be defined in the main window. Just copy the same events from the header section and the same implementation as well. And I think that we are done with the layout implementation. I think we're going to stop here. For the next video, we're going to continue implementing the main section of our application. So see you in the next video. Happy coding!